Hi, everyone, and welcome. Yeah, if you're joining live, I just want to say, this is really important that you kind of came, and this is really important work that we're doing here, and it's great that we can come together regularly. We've been doing this every 2 weeks now, and there'll be another call in about 2 weeks. And if you are watching the replay, I'm really glad that you found your way to this conversation as well. And if you're here live, welcome, welcome. And I wanted to just start by saying something really important. I want to get this just kind of over upfront. What this space is for a community and connection to ask your questions and get support with other people that are kind of going through the same thing that you're going through. What it isn't about fixing you, and it's not about diagnosing anyone. This is not about labeling people as narcissists or even debating psychology. That's not going to help us in the long run. What this tonight is actually for, it's about healing. And it's about recovery. And it's about understanding your own journey, which is going to look different from everyone else's. Everyone's path through this recovery process is unique. And we got, I think, Kristen's from Texas. Thanks. And just post your questions in the comments, and I will answer everyone's questions as they come up. And towards the end, I will take questions live. And one of the hardest parts that we're going to find about healing from any kind of toxic environment or any kind of thing that's been emotionally damaging to you is that it rarely makes sense from the inside. One of the metaphors I like to use is just like, we can't read the label of a jar if we're in the jar. So many of us, when we were in these relationships and in these environments, we didn't even realize that what was happening. And now that we're kind of out of it, or we're coming to terms with what we're in right now, we're going to realize that, friends and family, they mean well. But they often just see this as, well, this is just a bad relationship, or you're going through a bad patch, or that this should be over right now. And what those people don't understand, what other people don't understand, what the people understand here is that, they don't understand how deeply these experiences affect us. Because this form of manipulation, this form of abuse, it goes right down to our core. They don't understand the emotional damage it's caused or the psychological damage it caused, and for a lot of us, the physical damage as well, and what that affects, how that affects our nervous system, and what the process is to recover and to heal. What we're here to understand isn't, what happened to us, but how to become back to ourselves. And I want to name this gently. There's no single right way to heal, right? There is no universal timeline. Some of you may be early in this process, and some of you, be years out of it and still wondering why certain things just kind of linger in the background. Some of you might feel, clear one day and then completely overwhelmed the next. And I want to just normalize that. We're always going to have good days, and we're always going to have bad days. And when we've had a traumatized mind, it's just like the bad days can feel really, really bad for a little while, and all of it is normal. And throughout this whole conversation, just post your questions in the chat, and I'll respond as soon as I can get to them. And if you're watching the replay, there's comments below. So and I do read them and I do respond to them as well. There's no pressure for anyone to share. Share only what you want, and there's no pressure to have the right question either. Because sometimes just listening and recognizing that you're in a group of other people that know exactly what you're going through is just really, really helpful, which is why I keep hosting these things every 2 weeks. And the way I approach this work and the way that I'll speaking tonight comes both from lived experience and from years of working with people who've been through these dynamics. And I've learned that healing doesn't come from forcing insight or pushing empowerment before it's ready. And what it actually comes from, it's a longer journey of recovery. It's not quick and done. It comes from understanding, it comes from context, and it comes from slowly restoring a sense of safety and self-trust. So, as we go through this, just take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own pacing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a document that I have, and everyone that's on the mailing list will probably get it in the next day or two. So you'll go through the whole thing on your own. I'm only going to go through small chunks of it, and every session that I do, I just kind of go through small chunks of it, and we will go through this together. Let me just share my screen. Boom. And there we go. This is where we are. So this is what I'm going to take everyone through. And I will post links to other sessions that I did where I go into more detail, because I'm going to skim over like a good chunk of it. And what this is isn't just information. It's just a roadmap through the narcissism recovery. Because the big thing with narcissists and these emotionally manipulative people, whether it's with your parents, whether it's with coworkers, whether it's spouses or partners, it's just like what ends up being attacked is self-esteem. And what that leaves is self-doubt. And they prey on it. And the nervous system has to be on high alert for a really long time. It ends up being a really high emotional roller coaster. You go through big highs and you go through big lows. And at the end of it, it feels like you're just shrinking your identity. And the voice in your head at times can actually start to sound like them because you're so used to living with them. What's going to be in this document is the 4-part abuse cycle, and then how it evolves into emotional self-erasure. Today, what I'm going to take you through is the Narcovery 8F's roadmap, and this will help us understand how to reverse the damage. And I'll post links to these 2 videos, and today we're going to be working on this one. And then there's more here in the deck that you can go through on your own time. But just to give you a quick preview, I'm not going to go into details about this, but it's just like this is the toxic abuse cycle. And the toxic abuse cycle, it's just like, it's the truth is, and the reason it's called the toxic abuse cycle is because, it is a grooming process. We get groomed into these relationships. They don't start off the way that they do. If you think about the worst thing that's ever been said or done to you, and you didn't end the relationship right there, and ask yourself if that would have happened in the first month or 2 of the relationship, would there even be a relationship? You can realize how far the grooming process goes, right? And the grooming process is basically love bomb or honeymoon phase, and then goes into a calm phase. And then in the calm phase, we can let down our cards, we trust them, we can share little vulnerabilities about ourselves, and they keep those in mind. And then there goes through a tension phase. It's really hard for them. The right side of this is fiction, and it's really hard for them to live that lie of being the perfect partner. And then tension kind of comes as their real self starts to go through, and then there'll be a blow up of some kind. And they're very calculated of how these incidences go, because they need the incidents to be big enough to cause some damage to you, but not big enough to end the relationship. So it's then they fix it in the love bombing phase, and you go through the cycle again and again and again. And over time, what happens is it preys on your self-esteem, and really makes you question who you are. I'm going to post the link in the chat if you want to see. And I lost the window. I'll have to find the window afterwards, but I will post it later. But here I go into just the details of the love bombing phase, the calm phase, the tension phase, and then the incidents, and then it all repeats. And what makes it so dangerous, or this cycle so dangerous, is it is to erode your self-esteem over time. And we also create a split. Who are they? Are they this person, or are they this person? And the cognitive dissonance is when we try to live in 2 different realities both at the same time. And that can cause our brain to split. We don't know. Are they the one who adores us and treats us so well? Or are they the ones that harm us? And yet they're both. And somehow our minds have to keep a connection with that. And that does cause cognitive dissonance. And it also changes the brain chemistry of abuse. This intense back and forth, extreme highs and extreme lows, is very addictive. And we do go through withdrawal when these relationships end for a little while, and our minds will start abusing ourselves. And we will find that we will do the abuse cycle on our own. Whenever we're triggered, if there's an incident, a trigger, what we're going to look for is soothing techniques, right? We're going to look for ways to love bomb ourselves, and that'll give us a little bit of peace and a little bit of calm, and then we'll get another trigger. And we'll try to avoid that one, and we self abuse ourselves. And what I'm going to take you through today is how to reverse the abuse cycle. But I do want you to know that it's not your fault, and we can break this cycle over time. And this is what I mean by over time. These relationships start and they're beautiful, right? You got the love bombing, the calm, the tension, and the incident. They're really wonderful relationships, and then slowly the incidents and the tension get bigger and bigger, and then eventually it's mostly tension, and these incidences are huge. Physical violence can come up, any of those things, and if we get through this phase, what we end up doing is being caretakers to a narcissist, and it's basically living in a constant state of fear, anticipating their needs, worried about everything that's what's going to set them off. And most relationships end between here and here, and but this is where it goes. And when we start doing the healing work, we end up living in a state of fear for a really long time. This is kind of our life. And as we go through the healing process, things start to get slower and slower, and then our flashbacks start to reduce. And then we get to kind of, this is probably where we were when we started. But if we keep doing the work, eventually we get to a place of post-traumatic growth, where it's just like, there is more self-love, and you disconnect from the toxic source, but you end up reconnecting to yourself. And I'm not going to go through these. I will share the link when I went through last time. And here we go. And then this is what we're going to discuss today is just kind of reversing the timeline. If this is where we're starting, it's just like, let's move to this phase, and then we move to this phase, and we move to this phase. But in order to do that, we have to replace the fear that we're living in inside of our own minds with safety. We have to create physical safety, emotional safety, financial safety, all of those things. And then we move on to this one, which is you take the confusion and you replace it with clarity. And then in the other phase, we go from survival to self-trust. And then we go from breadcrumbing to true self-love. And that's kind of the process of recovery. And this is what I'm going to take everyone through today. And it's a 4-phase roadmap for reversing the cycle. So if you see that, here's the cycle here. It's like love bombing, calm, tension, incident. But what if we turned it on its face? What if we did the abuse cycle backwards? Right. And then we start with the incident, and this is quite often a flashback. In order to deal with a flashback properly, we have to face our fears. In order to do that, we have to create safety, security, and stability. And I'll take you through the different setups. But the whole point of this is to rebuild your nervous system and reclaim your identity. Not who you were before, but who you were actually meant to be. And I call it the Narcovery 8Fs because it's facing fears, feeling feelings, finding freedom, and then at the end you become future facing. And it's loosely based on the triphasic model that was developed by Veterans Affairs that uses this strategy, and they're really well known for all the research and things that they do with PTSD. And a lot of us are going to be carrying PTSD symptoms. So that's why I also use this kind of in our practice. So the first one is facing our fears. And for the most part, even when I take on a new client, this can take a couple months, right? Because we have to face our fears. But in order to do that, we have to create safety, security, and stability. And when we begin our recovery, we start where the pain lives. And that's the incident. And that could be the flashback. It could be an emotion like shame. It could be traumatic memories that we just couldn't process in the moment. When we're in a survival state, what ends up happening is like we can't process those feelings, so our body just kind of stores them. And then once we create a sense of survival, then there are no flashbacks because we're in a survival state. But once we kind of start moving out of that survival state, then we're going to start getting flashbacks. And the first step isn't fixing anything. It's realizing that you're living in a lot of fear. In order to treat fear, we have to create a foundation of safety, right? And that means establishing physical safety, emotional distance from anyone who's abusive towards you, finding a safe space, whether it's online or in person, and even in your body, just being comfortable with being by yourself sometimes. And then learning tools to regulate your nervous system. And there's breath work, there's grounding, there's all sorts of somatic tools that we can use. And this step is not fast, right? But it's very important. Because once we get that base of safety, then we can build from there and we can go to the next phase of recovery. And the next one is feeling our feelings. And this one is tough. This one is tough because reversing the tension phase, we have to go into this remembrance and mourning phase. And once safety is in place, you know what our nervous system starts to do? Starts to thaw. And you know, the stuff that is under the surface that we couldn't process, it can't stay there. It can't stay there forever. Right? So we have to just kind of thaw it. And the emotions that are going to be underneath are going to be very intense emotions. And they're going to be overwhelming when they first start to arise. Because what we're dealing with is some layers of grief, layers of anger, rage, heartbreak, confusion, shame, and even could have senses of relief. And some days it just kind of pours out, and some days it's just so much that our brains just shut us down, and we go numb. But this is all part of a normal recovery path because your system is trying to metabolize, you know, what was suppressed at once, what we couldn't process in the moment. And once we get that safety, then we can start to doing the process work. And this phase is also where withdrawal symptoms can appear. Right? And the withdrawal is pretty serious because in those situations, it was just like the brain chemistry, and there was a slide on it earlier, is the intensity of it. There's just massive amounts of dopamine. There's massive amounts of cortisol as well. It's just these spikes. And when we're all up on cortisol or we're up on dopamine, it's just like our systems are starting to get used to all of this intensity, and these spikes, you know, they create this chemical dependency, and our brain starts to crave them. And we might pick fights with people. We might shut down. There's so many things that we can do to avoid our feelings. And yet, the more that we suppress, the more that the work ends up needing to be. And emotionally, it's just like you're going to grieve, right? Tears are going to flow. Our emotions do come out of our eyeballs. And they come out of our bodies in different ways. And what we actually need to grieve is the version of ourselves that said that this was okay. That allowed us to stay in that situation for as long as we did. And also grieving the person that had to survive that environment, right? The protective strategies that you actually probably got really, really good at. Being a really good victim. I mean, we have to grieve that because that wasn't who we were, and we had to pretend in order to survive. And the future that you thought you were building, the future faking, Yvette has great stories on how they future fake us. It's like we have to grieve those because, you know, the dreams and the aspirations that we had in those relationships, it's just like that we have to mourn them too, because when we realize that, you know, a good chunk of what we were told and felt was a lie. And our nervous system hangs on to that, thinking that, oh, maybe if we did something different, things would be different and we wouldn't be in this situation when it was inevitable from the start. And then the next phase after the emotions kind of come out, you know, it's reversing the calm phase, and this is the reconnection and integration. After our emotions kind of go, after we cry or after we find a healthy way to release our anger, what we're going to realize is that the clarity is going to appear after storms of emotions, and they do come in storms. Something shifts and you begin to feel calm again because your nervous system is no longer holding this trauma to the level that it was before. And that clarity that you feel and the peace that you feel when you recognize that you have emotions, and so many of us have been so good at suppressing emotions, we can't even say what we're feeling. It's just it's why it's like I use these things, which is emotional color wheels, just to label feelings. Because so far it's just when you start working with somebody, it's like, how you feeling? Blah. Cool. Let's see if we can put another word to that. Let's see what else is there, and then we can do that. And then the whole goal is just to reconnect and integrate back into ourselves, because we're recognizing that the old survival patterns were that. You were in a survival pattern. And in survival states, you can fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You have four options to solve any problem. And what you're going to realize through recovery is there's infinite options, infinite ways of us working through our issues. But without the clarity of like our neocortex and our thinking mind, it's really hard to access those. Because our traumas are kind of in the back of our minds and they're close to our brainstem, they'll make us reactionary. And learning to pause, learning to take a break, expressing our emotions in a healthy way, and then coming back, we end up making better decisions. And that's the reconnection and integration. And this can take a while for the when we're first starting this, but it is also our path to freedom. And it's not because nothing hurts anymore. We're still going to have flashbacks. We're still going to have nightmares. We're going to still have difficulty with other relationships for a little while, but we have a bit of clarity, and we can finally trust ourselves that we can handle this. Because what we're going to realize is just, recovery from this might be the most difficult thing that you've ever had to do. And if you can overcome this, then what's your next challenge? If this is going to be that hard and you can overdo it, well, that means you can do anything. And there's a lot of growth that kind of happens afterwards. And that's where we get into this phase, which is future facing, right? And it's like the love bombing phase. And this is post traumatic growth. And what we do in this final phase of healing is when healing becomes your power, you're not the person that you were before the abuse. People can't push those buttons anymore because you've removed the buttons. You found the source. You work through it. You learn boundaries where you didn't have boundaries. You learn the difference between a hard boundary and a soft boundary, right? You're not the person you were before the abuse, because the person on the other side of these things, you're stronger, you're wiser, you're clearer, you're more boundary, because you know what happens when you don't do the work. You know how people can take advantage of us. And it's not in spite of what happened, but because you faced it, because you felt it, because you found another version of you on the other side, one that's wiser. You did the best you could with what you knew at that time. And what you're realizing now is you got new skills, you got new awareness, you got new strategies to work yourself through. So you don't have to, you can stop feeling your triggers, and because you know how to respond when a trigger comes up, you know how to process your emotions. Find the safety. What emotion is there? What when I release it, what clarity am I getting? What boundary was violated? What slight change do I need to make in order to be, live a full open-hearted life? And then we stop romanticizing the past because we actually see it clearly. All those fantasies and stuff, they were fantasies. But we also see that, there were weaknesses in us as well. And if they're going to show what our kinks in their armor are, cool, great. I have kinks in my armor. They're going to point it out to us, and then we heal that armor. And we should polish it and take the kinks out. And then that gives us strength. That gives us the ability to move forward. And we stop doubting ourselves. We know that life is going to be messy. Things are going to come up. But when they come up, we have the tools now that we can handle them. And you stop doubting yourself because you've earned your own trust, right? It's all healing paths. You're the one that heals you. People guide you. People need support, especially those who have been through it and understand. They can guide you and give you support, but you're the one that has to do the work yourself. And you start seeing your story as a source of strength. What did you overcome? If you look at the first Rocky movie, it's like Rocky got beaten at the end, right? And that's not the end of the story, right? He got back up and he went back into the ring, and then he got beat up again. And what happened? He got back into the ring, and then he got beat up again, and he got back into the ring. You want to know what the secret to success is? It's actually quite simple. It's just get back up one more time than you fall. And life is going to test us. It's going to test us again and again and again and again because it's asking, are you strong enough to go back into the ring? Right? Dare greatly from Brene Brown. Right? This is where healing becomes your superpower, and it's not because you survive narcissistic abuse, but because with your truth intact, you actually become unbreakable, and you become self-healing, and that's my goal with all clients that I work with. And in order to just give you a sense for practical tools that you can learn and use, whichever phase that you're in, what you're going to realize is that it's actually not linear, right? The recovery process isn't linear. You might find yourself in the reconnection mourning phase for a couple weeks, and then you might fall back into the emotions start coming up, and then you might fall into a freeze response, and you have to face your fears again. And then one day you might just wake up and just feel post-traumatic growth, and then go back into phase 2 and 3 and 1 and 7. And what's going to happen though is we're going to be spending more and more time in level 4 and less time in level 1, where we're triggered and we're anxious and we're traumatized. And when we are there, we don't stay there as long. We get up faster. We know the training, we know the drills, we know how to work through it. And some of the tools that can help in facing your fear, especially when we first start, and this can take a couple of months for when we first start doing this work, but it's just, somatic regulation is a really helpful tool. Grounding exercises, feeling your feet, wiggling your toes, noticing the environment that you're in, all really helpful. Breath work, noticing that you're breathing, right? If you just kind of notice if you're in the middle of a flashback or your mind is racing towards something, you can just ask yourself this question. It's just like, who is it that's breathing right now? Right? Because our thoughts aren't doing the breathing, our flashbacks aren't doing the breathing. We go back into these traumatic memories, but they're not breathing. And if you can just kind of create that little bit of separation, a little bit of safety, you can realize that breath can bring you back into the present moment, because in this moment you're safe. And then also safe communities. Coming to this group every 2 weeks is helpful. Joining other groups is helpful, and helping others. Like Keith is here helping others, and Yvette's here helping others, and there's a number of people that kind of come back, and they work their way through it in order to help other people, because so many people don't understand, and everyone here knows. Right? And then the next part of the process is feeling our feelings. And there's a lot of different ways. And part of it is a lot of us don't even know what we're feeling most of the time. So it is becoming emotionally literate becomes part of the process. Being able to label what I'm feeling. I'm angry, or I'm sad, or I'm discombobulated, or I'm numb. All of these feelings are there. And some of the tools that I use is just IFS, which is internal family system. And that's a way of kind of breaking things down in parts, right? Instead of I am angry, I have a part of me that's angry. What is it angry about? And then we can listen. We can have a dialogue with our inner parts and do it with a little bit of space. I accidentally went a little bit too far. The next is finding freedom. And there's different forms of therapy that can help. Narrative therapy is really good, writing out your story. Journaling, those are really good. Trauma education can help, because it's just like it's creating meaning. At this point, we're talking about meaning. Spiritual integration is helpful. And then reconnection rituals are also really helpful. Noticing when you take a shower that you are cleansing yourself. When you drink warm water, you're bringing warmth into your nervous system. All of these little rituals help. Tapping is a really good ritual because it creates touch. And then future facing. This is the purpose work. Imagine you went through what you went through for a reason. It was meant to teach you something. What's that lesson? Right? And this is where purpose work happens. And it could be peer mentorship. It could be, coming to help others as they're going through it. It could be vision building. It could be, if you're meant to write a book, then you write a book. If you want to start your own company, you start your own company. If you want to get a promotion, you work on getting a promotion. Because it's just like the past isn't weighing us down anymore, which means that we can actually influence our future. And any kind of embodiment practices are also really helpful here. And you don't have to master this all at once, but you do have to begin. My suggestion is starting with these top ones and then working your way through. As these tools start to take more effect, then we can go deeper into the work. And when it gets overwhelming, we just go back to these. Always go back. And those are some of the tools that I use with my clients. But yeah, so how to use this roadmap in real life. Right. First, it actually starts off with compassion, curiosity, and care. In order to do any kind of trauma work, we need those three tools: compassion, and that's self compassion; curiosity, what is it that I'm feeling? What made me feel this way? How is this affecting my life? What can I do differently? All of those things. What is it that just activated me? Why am I triggered right now? What does my body need to feel safe right now? If you just ask your question, what do I need to feel safe right now? Your nervous system is going to answer. Right? I need quiet. I need peace. I need my friend. I need to pet my dog. I need to go for a walk. What you're going to realize is your nervous system will give you symptoms, but all we got to do is ask. And we have to learn how to do that, right? And one thing you can do right now is just place your hand on your heart and your belly, and you can just kind of feel what it feels like just to hold yourself, even just for a little bit, just to feel the warmth of your hand on your chest, and feel the warmth of your chest on your hand, and just feel what it feels like to being held. And you're the one that's holding. And whatever your fear is, you can name it out loud. I'm scared right now, or am I safe? I'm curious, right? And then ground in the present moment. You can feel your feet, wiggle your toes, right? These body sensations. When we're in a flashback, it's just like our minds take us to other places, and these tools just help bring us back. Go back into the breath, go back into the surrounding. And then for phase two, it's just like pause and feel. And we don't like to feel our feelings. And so often, especially in our childhoods and stuff, we were punished for having feelings, especially if they're intense. And yet, if we push those back, if we keep those bottled up, they'll just show up in different ways. So there is an emotion, right? It's like, all right, well, I'm feeling scared, but what are you feeling underneath the fear? What's the fear protecting you from? What are you afraid to do something? Are you afraid to be seen? Are you afraid to be heard? Are you afraid to speak your mind? What is it that you're afraid of? Right. And then you can start, can I let this exist for a moment without judgment? Can I allow the fear just to sit here for a little bit? I'm going to be scared, right? Or I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be any of those things without pushing it away. Just hold it. And then hold it for a bit longer next time, and a bit longer the time after that. And then, we can also put it down on paper. Anytime you start a new journaling thing, just start with I feel. And then an hour ago, I felt. And this morning, I felt. Write them down, because your feelings are valid and you need to feel them. And if you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream into a pillow, scream into a pillow. And then breathe through the discomfort. If we can create a safe space large enough for our emotions to kind of flow through, that requires a lot of stability to do so. They do. Our emotions are meant to rise, they're meant to crest, and they're meant to fall again. And then they'll be replaced by new emotions. And they rise and they fall and they crest. And we do that again and again and again. And it becomes natural because we let emotions move through and we don't suppress them. Then next is, reconnect, find freedom. What was true about me that has nothing to do with them, right? You survived, right? That's true. You're still alive. Everything that you've ever faced in your life right now, you've overcome. You know why? Because you're here. So that means everything that you faced in the past, you're stronger than. Cool. That's a pretty good story, right? And it allows you to just return to whatever it is that you love. What is you love? You love music? You like movement? You like nature? You exercise? Is it art? What is it that you love? And then follow that passion a little bit more, because you're saying to yourself, I'm not broken. I am finding my way back. And I am influencing the life. I am listening to what it is that drives me, what motivates me. And then, say to yourself, I'm not broken. I'm finding my way back. And then reach out to someone safe and remind yourself, I'm not alone. Isolation. So many of us can get so overwhelmed with feelings, and the people around us don't understand. But we all have those roots, those people that will sit with us while we're at our worst, right? Those are the people that we rely on, right? And therapy is also a really good place to find those safe people that understand, because it's important that we don't do this alone. We are not isolation species. We do not live well in isolation, and healing doesn't happen by just sitting alone in our thoughts. It happens by feeling our feelings and expressing them, and then reconnecting to the outside world. Right? And then we become future facing, where it's just like we look forward. If this is what you've overcome, if this is the battle, the internal battle that you've overcome, and you survived it, what is it teaching you? What kind of life can you build now, with courage, with strength, with resilience, with boundaries, and knowing that this stuff is not going to happen again? And if it does, you're going to catch it much sooner. The damage isn't going to go as deep. Right? And just say tiny little intentions for the day. Today I will show myself gentleness. Reflect on your progress. I used to feel this, now I can feel this. I used to be afraid to talk to strangers, and now I can. Right? All of those things. Visualize yourself in the future, like right now, a year from now. Where do you want to be? Right? It's not all going to get solved in one meeting or one session or one therapy or one program. It's going to be solved over time. Where do you want to be in a year from now? And if you think about that, it's just like, all right, well, everything that's getting in your way is where we need to do the work. And that's what we do, one piece by piece by piece by piece. And then you actually get to that post-traumatic growth phase. Whatever your goal is a year from now, it's just like, cool, we'll get into that part. And you don't need to go in order, and you don't need to move between the phases easily. Don't just say, I'm going to spend 3 months here, 3 months here, 3 months here, 3 months here. It doesn't work like that. In one session, you can go all the way through it, and then the next session, you can be in phase 2 for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then you'll go into phase 3, and then phase 4, and then 1. You're going to go up and down. Just being able to label where you are in the process, and knowing what it is that your nervous system needs in that process to help you. And triggers aren't setbacks; they're actually invitations to go deeper. Right? When we start going into the safety phase of it, what starts coming up are flashbacks, repressed memories that weren't able to be seen, and that's actually really healthy, because it tells me that you're safe enough for these things to come up. And the safety that it takes, and the trust that it takes for our wounds and our traumas to show themselves, is immense. So that's our chance to process it. So every time we get a trigger, it's a chance to take the work out deeper, and a chance to look at it from a different angle. And you're allowed to take your time, right? I don't have any quick fixes. I don't have any 12-week programs. I don't have any single videos that are going to make change your life and forever. What I have is, constant contact, constant information, constant support, done over time. That's where we're going to find the real changes. And when you get overwhelmed, I want you to know that you can rest as well. And that's as far as we'll go today. The drama triangle will be something that we will go through next time. But yeah, I hope this makes sense. I'm just gonna go through the chat window as soon as I find it. And let's see. Yvette says, holding your emotions in while healing will slow down your healing as you let them out, and then you tell yourself that you are valid. Yeah, your emotions are valid. Therefore, the person that's carrying the emotions must be valid, right? And the narcissist tries to erase your personality. Absolutely, reminding you that you matter is critical. Yeah. And there's a lot of truth in Vet's statements. And Vet has some really good comments and stuff, and great insights to share. And there's a lot of truth in saying that. And I just want to add a little nuance. Healing isn't about holding everything in, right? It's not having a stronger dam, right? It's also not about forcing emotions out when your system isn't safe. It's not about having a temper tantrum every time that your coffee order gets mixed up. Right? It's not about that either. Those are the two extremes. What actually moves healing forward is learning that your emotions are allowed to exist without being judged, without being minimized, or without being punished. Right? Because these dynamics, your personality and the emotional reality, that often gets slowly erased through time. And it's not all at once. It gets erased through repetition. So in order to heal, we also need to follow the repetition. And what you're going to learn is that expressing yourself in the past was like it led to conflict. And when conflict hit, we hit withdrawal. And then, other people are trying to control us, and maybe we're trying to control them. And it just becomes very, very messy. So the body adapts by containing everything, it just shuts everything down. Reminding yourself that you matter. It's not just a thought, it's actually an experience. And letting emotions move at the pace that your nervous system can tolerate, because we don't want to overdo it. We can re-traumatize ourselves in this recovery process. But it is to move it at a pace that's comfortable for your nervous system. And your nervous system will tell you, what can I release today? It'll tell you. Right? And you discover that, nothing bad happens when you honor what you're feeling. And that's how validity is built, self-esteem is rebuilt. It's not through intensity, but it's far more important to go through consistency. One grounding exercise that Yvette uses was telling myself I am safe now, and not everyone is deceptive. Cool, because yeah, you're there too, right? You're there too, and it's just like you are allowed to feel, and if somebody else is allowed to feel something, right, then you are too. Right? Um, Adriana. Sometimes when you're in a traumatic situation, your outlets to channel your energy get taken away from you, making everything worse. Yeah, yeah, I agree, and it's actually a really good observation. I'll add to it a little bit. In many traumatic or controlling situations, because that's what we're talking about, we're being controlled emotionally, physically sometimes. But it's just like it's not just your emotions that gets restricted. There are approved emotions that you can express on certain given times, but your outlets to express healthy emotions also get taken away. Right. And a lot of us can come out with Stockholm syndrome because it's the people that we would talk to about what we were going through. When they get taken away, then we have no outlets. We have no ways of releasing all that tension that gets stored in our bodies, and that's what makes it worse. And that's why a lot of these manipulative relationships, anyone that can give you grounding and rationalization, they need to be the one, the whole everything, your moon, your star, your universe, and because somebody else will question them. And what do? They isolate. Right? And over time, the system has nowhere to put that energy. So your system learns to carry more grief, more anger, more fear, and all of it gets trapped inside you. And when there's no safe release, yeah, it doesn't disappear. What it ends up doing is turns inwards, and it makes everything you feel heavier and more confusing. And part of healing is slowly rebuilding those outlets, finding safe places. When you say, "This is what happened," I just need you to listen. Don't fix me. Just let me tell you what I went through. Right? And part of healing is just slowly rebuilding those outlets, getting those connections, rebuilding relationships that were lost. Expression in any form, movement is healthy. Exercise is healthy. Going other ways is healthy. And because the goal is to make you feel safe again. And that's when people notice their nervous systems finally has room to breathe. Yeah, that's like, yeah, journaling, support groups, exercise, deep breathing, trauma, all of those things. Buck, you're welcome. I'm glad that clarity helped. Wish you had told me this 20 years ago. Yeah, I wish I knew this 20 years ago. I really, really do. I totally hear you, Buck. But yeah, the whole thing is, it's just like, yeah, I didn't know those things back then, but guess what? I know them now. And that just kind of makes me it makes me better. Aqua therapy is amazing, and what's great about aqua therapy is just that feeling of lightness, of feeling held. That can help us a lot. That's right. Adriana is asking when the next session is, and yeah, it's going to be in 2 weeks, so that's going to be February 17th. Are you still there, Adriana? Yes. All right. Well, if you want, you can raise your hand and I can talk to you, but I see Christine has her hand up. Go ahead.
person or the family person, whatever you want to call them, they don't really see that they're doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a criminal trial with the
Mm-hmm.
ex, well, soon to be ex husband,
Mm-hmm.
and even though they had the judge, the guy had had audio recording. I've got pictures of the bruises. I've got pictures of and even him videoed them, like several videos of all that stuff. We get to the court, and he had all the evidence, even though the evidence was in front of him. And the judge looked at him and said, "What do you plead?" He said, "Not guilty."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Really?" And my husband again said, "No, I'm not guilty of any of this."
Mm-hmm.
The judge looked at the lawyer and he said, whatever the guy's name is, he said to the lawyer, "Did you show your client the evidence?"
Mm-hmm.
And the lawyer said, "Yes, Your Honor. He's seen and read and um, he knows all the evidence." And then the judge turned around, looked him in the eye, and said, "What do you plead?" And he said, "Not guilty."
Mm-hmm.
So no matter, you can go right up to court being charged with attempted, apparently it's attempted to end life.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he was charged with that, and he still said he wasn't guilty. Like he looked the judge right in the face with no expression and said he's not guilty. And then they made a case against me being the abuser and everything else.
Yeah, they do that.
And yeah, it's unbelievable with the evidence and the judge telling him they do not know, they will not admit this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they don't admit it or do they just not get it. But I don't understand it. But anyways, long story short, if you guys are waiting for them to ever admit to it,
Mm-hmm.
you're never gonna get it. Like even in front of a court,
Mm-hmm.
they will say no,
Yeah.
they didn't do it. So yeah, you just work on your own healing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's done me a lot to go through this
Yeah.
trial. It was horrible, but I went through the trial
Good
and
for
the
you.
prosecutors and everything, and I'm very proud I did all that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying to you guys will come out of it on the other end,
Mm-hmm.
but don't wait for the apology
Yeah,
or the
yeah,
acknowledgement.
and and you're not going to get one, and that's the whole thing. Is they're also
Never.
going to hold closure against you. And one thing I'll add is just people with strong narcissistic traits, like admitting wrongdoing, doesn't just threaten their reputation; it threatens their entire sense of self. Right? Keep in mind, it's just like they live under this veil, where they can shift reality, and the fact that the world doesn't agree to them, that they can look at evidence and see videos, and they can see all of those things, and still be in that denial state. That's why evidence just doesn't land for them. It's like it doesn't matter if there are recordings. It doesn't matter if they had even admitted it in the past. Their denial is not a debate. It's a wall. It's a wall that they live behind because their false identity is there. And if they have to face a real identity, it actually is a death because their false self is their reality. And what you're
Yeah,
describing is
you're right.
yeah, and what you're describing for you, because I care more about your recovery than I care about labeling him or his
Yeah.
tactics. What you're describing is the most destabilizing parts of this kind of trauma, right? And so many of us, when we get out of these states, it's like we look for justice. The thing is not to look for justice. The thing is to
It's
move.
never gonna come.
It's not going to
It's
come. So look
no.
for peace instead. Peace is something that you can achieve because you weren't
Exactly.
dealing with a disagreement about facts because we know the facts are undisputable. You are actually dealing with somebody who can't psychologically tolerate accountability, and they will do anything in their power to avoid accountability. And when evidence is put in front of them, it'll say like not guilty. And it wasn't confusion; it was just self-protection at any cost. And in those moments, your mind's going to say like, what did I do? Or ask like, how do I survive this without collapsing? Because it's just like justice would be nice. It would be nice.
It would be nice. Yeah, I didn't get justice,
Yeah,
not through the courts, but I did get justice through the journaling and everything else.
good.
And I reread it, and I knew that and then yesterday, somebody I had to, now the trial's over, everybody's
Yeah,
happy. I had to tell some people about what happened.
mm,
You know what they said? I said, what happened? You know what they said was, well, couldn't you just forgive him and get back together? No.
mm,
Like,
yeah.
no.
No, people
Like
don't
our
understand.
family, other people around us
Yeah.
are telling us, oh, we don't worry about it.
Mm,
If you just went to church more and you could just, that's what one guy said yesterday. If you just went to church more, you'd
mm,
forgive him. I was like, why am I
yeah.
forgiving
And
him?
it's not about
Those
forgiving
people
him.
were,
Actually, and forgiveness of him is you never have to do that. What we actually have to
never,
do is forgive ourselves. right? If you're going to forgive anyone, forgive yourself, because that's somebody
exactly.
who can actually heal, right? Because it doesn't become about trying to think about if I explain things differently or if I did something else different. It's more like over time, it just you're looking at trust in your own perception, and the whole
Yeah,
thing is it's just like,
definitely.
but you know what happened, and even if nobody else believes you, that's fine. You need to be the one that believes you, and that's all that really, really matters, right? And his refusal to see reality does not invalidate your experience. And that's the whole thing. And people don't understand what your experience is. Just go to church, forgive him, take him back, and then what? It's just like, one of us is gonna not survive this relationship. And it's just like, no, I'm actually here to set boundaries and protect myself. Because you weren't trying to convince somebody who didn't understand. You were trying to reach somebody who couldn't afford to have you understand. Right? Because part of your
Mm-hmm.
healing now is letting go of the hope that he will one day see it. Never going to happen, and we don't need that. Closure doesn't come from his acknowledgement. It doesn't. He doesn't have to ever admit that he had ever wronged you in any way. It actually
Or
comes from
anyone
you
else, or
trusting.
anyone else.
Yeah.
Like even though that one guy is still, well, I know him very well. He's been my best friend, and
Mhm.
I know that's not okay. Whatever. I don't explain. I didn't say. I
Yeah.
just sanitized it with a smile. One. Well, I know what it was, and
Mhm.
I left.
Yeah.
Fuck it. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're not there, guys, to prove to anybody else.
No. And the only thing is, it's just like you know what you lived. And honestly, that's the most important thing. The evidence that was for the court, it wasn't for him. And your healing actually doesn't require his agreement. But right now, the work isn't understanding his mind. It's just helping you to feel safe, and
Yeah.
to trust yourself again. Mm,
Okay.
But how is your nervous system? How are you sleeping? Are you having any
Um,
flashbacks?
I had horrible. That's why you had to see me for a while.
Mm,
It was really bad.
mm,
Lots of flashbacks and a
mm,
lot of nights just not thinking that I'm gonna lose the house, I'm
mm,
gonna lose everything that I had.
mm,
But now with the trials over, my nervous system's calm, coming
mm,
down, coming
mm,
down, coming
mm,
down, stuff like that. So I'm on the upswing of it, but I have to really keep watching, making sure that I take my time to do my painting and calming stuff,
mm,
grounding stuff. But it was a brutal last 2 months.
mm.
But I will be fine once I figure it out.
Good. Well, let me help you kind of understand what's ahead. Partly, it's like I always see flashbacks as good. It tells me that you're healthy enough to process things that you weren't able to process in the past, and that safety that you've got, right? That's where it's just like feeling our feelings. If you remember the presentation, it's just like that part of it, that second phase of feeling your feelings. I couldn't feel this back then. It's coming at me now. Cool. Cool. What
Mm-hmm.
you're noticing right now makes a lot of sense because here's what the thing is: when you're on trial, your nervous system is in full survival mode. What are you doing? You're preparing, you're bracing, you're replaying old memories, you're redocumenting. You have to share things again and again. It means that you're worrying at night. It means you're losing your appetite. All of these things is your body trying to protect you in some way. And now that the trial's over, it's just like your nervous system finally has evidence that the immediate threat has passed. Cool. So we just kind of described what phase one and phase two are like, right? And then we're talking about the integration, which was, now you're back to your painting. Now you're back to doing external things, right? And you could be like that for a couple days, and then you might fall back into flashbacks. In which case, feel those, and then go back to your art, go back into something. And then where do you want to be in 6 months? What skills do you want to develop? And start moving more and more towards future facing. And if your nervous system sucks you back, allow it to suck you back. Just we don't have to stay there as long, right? That's why you're calming. You're calming now, calmer now. That's why you're sleeping a little bit better. You're eating again. This isn't you getting over it. It's your body that's exhausted. It's exhausted. And for the first time in a really long time, it's getting some rest. So, what to expect over the next couple months? What usually happens isn't going to be consistent relief. What you're going to be noticing is something called oscillation. And what you're going to find is there's going to be days where you feel clear and steady, and you'll even feel hopeful. And then there's days where it's just like, cool, you have those for a little while. And then memories are going to start to surface. They're going to be flashbacks. Anxiety might spike again. And sometimes without even an obvious trigger. It could be something from a movie. It could be an argument at the grocery store. It could be something that triggers it off. But sometimes it's not even obvious. You could just be driving. You have to pull over and have a cry. These are totally normal. This is part of oscillation, and that's what you're going to notice over the next couple months. And that doesn't mean that you're going backwards when these things happen, right? I want you to not fight them, but try to be a little bit more present when these waves hit, because it means that your system's finally safe enough to process what it had to suppress just to get you through the trial. And there's a lot that you had to suppress. You had to be strong. You couldn't express yourself the way you wanted to. And flashbacks and nighttime worry, they will increase after a major stressor ends, because your body is no longer using all its energy to survive in the present. And if your body's not using its energy to survive in the present, you're also not healing. So, but now that you've got more energy, now it can be directed back into self. So I want you to think about it like this. It's like during a crisis, all your nervous system had to be in a frozen state, right? And it's just like an ice cube on a counter. It's like that frozen state, it needs to thaw. And that water that's melting around that ice cube, that's messy. It's messy. So your emotions are going to be messy for a little while. But it's also a sign that your system is working. It's trying to get rid of what's there. And the fact that you're eating again and settling a bit is a very good sign. It means that your system is re-entering into a regulated state. And for the next few months, sleep and appetite, they're going to continue to improve, but you're going to hit this wobble now and again. And then go work through the wobble. Don't try to force it. Don't guilt yourself. Just like, I'm in a wobble. More ice is melting. I got more mess to clean up. Cool. Clean up that little bit of mess and then go back. And this back and forth is normal, right? And when I'm treating clients, you can call it titration, where it's just like, we're just going to process a little bit, something that your nervous system can handle right now. And then the weight on your back is a little bit lighter. And then when you reset your nervous system again, we work on something else and work on something else. And slowly, it's almost like you've got a walking around with a backpack full of traumas, and they're like rocks. And it's like, put them down once in a while, right? Just put them down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't have to
Yeah,
deal with them
because
all at
I
once.
also dealing with voices in my head, like doing something during the day,
Hmm.
and I could just hear them. You're so great, stupid. You can't do
Yeah,
great things
yeah,
and all this.
yeah,
And now I used to just kind of collapse, like maybe he is right after 40 years of telling me this. But
mm,
now I'm stopping and actually saying out loud, "This is not my voice. This is him. This
yeah.
is him telling me this. I can do this." And then I go and do something, and then
Good.
I'm like doing a little, haha, I can do it. I
Mm.
told you.
Good for you. Good for you.
But I'm trying, yeah, but that voice is in his plus 40 years. I've
Hmm.
been with him since I was a kid. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's really hard, you guys, to get the
Yeah.
voices.
It is, and what you're describing are called interjects, and what you're noticing right now is it's not your voice. You'll hear them, but they're echoes from the past, and in the present you can notice the past. But yeah, there is a treatment protocol and stuff to handle that. But yeah, so send me. I'll post a link to the my calendar, and I'll talk you through it. It does take time. It is not something that can be done right away, but you will start feeling better right away. And here's the link to the calendar. I'd click on it now, because at the end of the call, the link is gonna disappear. And I was going to share some other links now that I found that window. So it sucks when I have so many windows open. But I'm going to share the links to, because remember I was talking about the abuse cycle. This link that I'm going to share now goes deep into that. Oops. I've put that into the participant file, and apparently we have no participants that are the same name as the file on YouTube. That's cool. And then I also went into details on the what happens over time. And that's that second video. And today we talked about kind of the healing process, and it's good, and it does take time. This is not a quick process. And when I take on a client, it's just like it is a slow process, but it's permanent work. And it's not going to be one and done. It's going to be like we're going to give you the guidance, give you the understanding, make your space a little bit bigger, and then our nervous system. And one of the metaphors that I use with my clients is kind of like pulling an elastic band, right? When we're first out of these, the elastic band is tight, and then you go into groups like this when you talk about your experiences, you're stretching that, right? And then what's going to happen over the next couple of days is it's going to pull back, but it's not going to pull back to the same distance, right? And with therapy and with support, we're just going to keep pushing it further and further and further and further. And you can call that as a metaphor for your zone of regulation, what you can handle. There's going to be days where it's just like you can't handle no loud noises or TV, right? And then there's going to be days where you can, right? And it's just going to ebb and flow, and have that support there for you. All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. Anyone else got any questions? Anything to share? Camille, I know you posted some questions in the comments, and I know Yvette's been super helpful with helping people. Adriana, yeah, it'll be in 2 weeks. In a loud place in the moment, but thanks for this session. No worries, we can connect another time. And you also have the link to my calendar if you want to talk to my assistant. And yeah, narcissistic abuse. Oh, okay. Yvette shared a narcissistic abuse recovery person, which is great. Because that is a specialty, and there is actual tactics to dealing with toxic people in those environments. And Keith is familiar with it, and quite often it's just like give them a shovel, let them dig a hole, and what you're going to notice is they're going to fall right into it, or give them enough rope and a chair, and they will hang themselves. And a good lawyer will do that. It'll be hard because you're like, oh my God, they're building a case against me. They're not. They're creating the delusion of the lie or the fantasy, and then at the end it's just like you knock the chair out, and then their own words get used against them. So that's something that comes up. But if there's nothing else, we will wrap it up for the evening. Joy, thank you for coming. Chris, thank you for coming. Samsung, Linda, anyone else? If you got anything else to say, now's the time. If not, we will see you again in
Thank
2 weeks.
you. Thank you for everything. I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, good.
You're doing a great job. You're helping a lot of people.
Good, good. Yeah, no, I've had 1,000 clients so far since 2019. So it is, but it also creates meaning because it's like if we're looking at why I do this, it's just like okay, but it's just I had these experiences, right? And I was a writer for most of my life, so I was able to articulate these things. Right? It's like why did
You should have millions of clients.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You work at 24.
More so, yeah,
You
yeah,
know what? Just you and your videos and your YouTubes and all that is helping
yeah. I'm so glad.
a ton of people.
Hey, Yvette, and Yvette's gonna close us off because she's always full of wonder. Because even Yvette will tell you, it's just like what we learn and what we grow from this. It's like even you can see my logo is a phoenix. It's just like a phoenix. If you look at just the story of the phoenix, like the phoenix is the phoenix in the fire, and it's stuck in the fire until it makes the decision to set itself on fire, right? And once it sets itself on fire, it's free. Those traumas and those hurts and those things that we carry on our back are also the strength and the wisdom that sets us free. But go ahead, Vet.
Okay, well, bless you, sir. Bless you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
The biggest key to healing is not falling for the narcissistic urgency. Putting yourself first critical to healing. Sorry, I stole that term from you, Miles.
Okay. And I'm glad it did. Yeah, it's not putting their needs first, but it's realizing that you have a voice. And I've got all sorts of kind of posts on that. But the whole thing is, it's just like you don't have to agree with them, right? And that you don't, like, even Christine. It's just like nobody has to believe you. Like nobody has to believe you, but you have to believe in yourself, no matter what the world says, no matter what they do. And and it's such an important insight that Yvette shared, because so much of the harm that happens in these relationships comes from being trained to put someone else's needs, moods, reactions ahead of your own. Right. And what happens in the grooming process is that we learn that that's our role. Our goal is to regulate this person. And we do that over and over again until what happens? It's like that strong voice that we used to have gets quieter and quieter and quieter. And healing begins when that pattern just stops. Right. Well, I had another nuance to my own words, but it's like reclaiming your voice. It doesn't mean becoming selfish or hard. It's not that at all. It means that you're relearning that your needs count, and not after everyone else's, not once things calm down, but as part of the equation again. And it's just like waking up every morning and realizing that I matter. Right? And healing is the slow reversal of all of that, and noticing what you feel, noticing what do I need right now in this moment, not looking for somebody else, but allowing yourself to ask for help if you need help, and letting that matter, because that's how our voice comes back. It comes not all at once. It comes with consistency, comes over time, and doing it again and again and again and again. And healing starts when you stop disappearing into someone else's reality, someone else's shared fantasy. It's like your voice, it doesn't need to fight. And what you're going to find is a whisper is going to be a roar. And when they're screaming, it's just because there's nothing there. There's nothing there that's important. So it's like, yeah, everyone here deserves the right to exist. And we did what we did in order to survive those environments. But we're also going to learn how to learn and grow and be stronger and have our own voice. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And we will see you guys again in a couple weeks. Christine, you have the link. Remember to click on that. The other videos are also in the messenger link, so you can see the other things, and the whole document that I have here will be shared in the next day or two if you're on my mailing list. And good to see you, Rick. Peace to you too. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Joy.
Bless you.
Thank you. All right. Good night, everyone.